If Packer were here today and I were interviewing him, I would say, "Hey, Mr. J.I. Packer, what are we trying to do?" Um, and I think he would say our clear objective is to kill sin. Hey everybody, it's James Rock in the world famous Trout Lake Camps podcast studios. That's my friend Justin. And today we are going to interview J.I. Packer again. And I know he's been dead a few years. But there's a few pieces of him that I want to talk to you guys about, and a few other focus points. And we'll probably talk to J.I. or Owen, I don't know, every 5 or 6 interviews or something like that, just because there's so much great material from those guys. So many more great pieces of this book, The Mortification of Sin, and pieces of 18 Words and other writings from Packer. But again, our kind of landing point, if by the Spirit you mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. That is a quote from John Owen's book. Don't know what version of Romans that is, but I love it. We hit on this very, very quickly, this section in Colossians that's a favorite of Packer. And I want to read it to you and then just read a couple Packer quotes that go with it. Colossians 3, 3 and 5. And again, we've talked about this a little bit, but if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on the things that are above, not the things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Verse 5, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, covetousness, which is idolatry. Okay, just hitting those verses. We're getting a little bit deeper in Colossians here, where we haven't really went through this list. Again, Paul's the king of lists: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, covetousness, that idolatry. Put to death these things, mortify these things. Why? Well, you should set your things on the mind. You should set your minds on the things above, not on the things on earth. That's verse 2. Why? Verse 3. You have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. I like the word "hidden" there. Your life is with Him. Your life is alongside Him. Okay. The paraphrase that we've used a couple times is, "You must be what you are and not what you were. Therefore, you must mortify sin." That's coming from Packer. And the reason why I wanted to go back to this verse and go back to this section is this quote. Without a clear objective, one fights aimlessly. We must be clear in what we are trying to do. All right. Again, I've used this one. Mortification is a life's work. Otherwise, sin will not die. Okay. Or like I like to say it, sin will not die. Right. In this life's work of killing sin. So we go back to that Colossians section, verse 3, for you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Okay. In becoming a Christian, in committing yourself to your heart to Him, in considering giving Him your life, and making Him your King, and making Him your Lord, and making Him your Savior, and making Him your Rabbi, and saying, I am going to follow Jesus. I'm going to be a Christian. I'm going to be like Him. That part of you that is indifferent to that gross, awful flesh part, in theory, you've died. That part of you has died, and you've become new. You've become born again. You've become afresh. And the reason why I stop here is in putting to death sexual morality, impurity, passion, evil desire, covetousness. Again, we're going to get into sexual morality here in the next conversation of the 7 deadly sins. But I love when Packer says, without a clear objective, one fights aimlessly. We must then be clear what we are trying to do. If Packer were here today and I were interviewing him, I would say, "Hey, Mr. J.I. Packer, what are we trying to do?" Um, and I think he would say our clear objective is to kill sin, is to remove sin from our lives. I think Packer would say that because for him, that killing of sin is this life's work. This incredible all-encompassing goal where we walk away from those old things and seek out this new life in Jesus. And I want to shake the table. I want to stand up and shout. It's hard for me to say this in quiet terms, Justin. I without clear objective, we're just fighting aimlessly. Um, can I be so bold? Is without a clear objective in our Christian walk, we're just aimlessly being a Christian? Is it okay to say that, Justin? Can I take it that far and say if our Christianity is only based on God's got this covered, I've got grace, I can still do whatever I want. I don't have to change anything inside of me. I don't have to do anything different. I don't need to feel the need to adjust my walk. I don't want a Christianity aimlessly. I don't want to follow him aimlessly.
It's probably worth thinking about how many people in Scripture were addressed with what you're talking about who were already Christians. Like their hair's not being tousled, saying like you're fine just the way you are. It's telling them like you still have an aspiration. You have a different aspiration. It would be good and right for you to kill sin.
Yep, yep. And I like that old guy. I like Packer. I like Grandpa Packer, bopping me on the head and saying, "Come on." I like Coach Packer, although when I read his books, they're just brutal sometimes because I keep going back and reading his book on prayer, and I'm just like, I'm trying so hard. Just cut me a little slack, J.I. Come on, But it's just like, without a clear objective, one fights aimlessly. I think if we were to interview Packer today, he would say, "Look, you guys, mortifying sin is so important." And here we are 12 weeks in, and we're trying, but at what point do we give ourselves to this so intently because we've died in that sin's gone from us? And our life is hidden with Christ. And when Christ appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. I think we look at that backwards. I think we as modern American Christians today, our focus is, well, I got heaven or hell, right? And if I've got heaven, well, then I don't have to worry and everything's great. Paul is promising so much more than heaven here. He's promising a life of significance. He's promising a life of worth. He's promising that if you've died to your sin, and that's that part where Jesus takes it from you, and he says, "This is mine," and your life's hidden in him, that there's so much worth in that. There's so much good in that when we put to death those earthly awful things and seek out who we are in Jesus. And again, training our hearts to reflect who he is. Because you go back to that top, if you have been raised with Christ, seek things that are above. our awake moments should be seeking things that are above, not seeking the things that are in the past from us. And I don't know, I'm just trying to encourage you in this path. I'm trying to encourage myself that my prayer in the morning should be, I need to seek the things that are above. I need to seek the things of Jesus. I need to seek out the things that he has for me and put to death the junk and impurity and nastiness and idols that I shouldn't be involved with anymore because I'm connected to Jesus.
Yeah, I was just looking at the screen back here and thinking about this: put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. It's difficult to when people talk about think on heavenly things and all this, sometimes I think that can be used as like a way to abstract away things that need to be done in the here and now,
In the here
the
and now.
tangible, in the non-heavenly
Yep.
places. We're here.
Yep. And that's so Americanized. And, I've got heaven. It's coming. When that comes, we'll figure it out. I'll get my harp and sing and all those is that a harp? I'll get my harp and sing. But I think Paul's talking about now.
Yeah. Because if you've died, you're not in the earthly place like you don't have the earthly things to deal with right now. So like you're in the here and now. So it's time to put to death the earthly things.
Way back in the day when I was at Gull Lake, I had a kid come up to me after we did a session, and he was telling me about his uncle who read these kind of texts and said, well, what this really means is if you still sin, you're not even a Christian. And I don't think what Paul is saying is that, because what Paul is saying is these two sides are they're battling each other. The two rocks that you're looking at in your pocket that you're hopefully playing with every day, they're at this battle. I don't think Paul is saying, well, you should be perfect because this is all old, but he should say you definitely should be leaning to a side, right?
Yeah. I mean, be perfect as God is perfect. Yeah. It's commanded. But the trouble with what this teacher was saying is if you have that interpretation and you go, anybody who's a Christian who sins, well, let's look through history and find any Christian except Jesus.
Yep.
Only one guy pulled Christian.
That off. Yeah. Yeah, and so it was a student who was, and he was like, well, I don't think I can do that. And I was like, well, no, you can't. We're junk in the beginning, we're junk in the middle, we're junk in the end. That's why Jesus had to do what he did. If we were capable of not doing sin, the covenants in the Old Testament would have worked. Those things would have made things work out, and they didn't. That's why Jesus had to come. And so again, you sit back and you go, focus on the things above. Focus on those things that will bring you life and peace, not things that will bring you death and destruction. And so that's this episode. And again, I'm going to read it one more time. Without a clear objective, one fights aimlessly. We must be then clear at what we are trying to do. Hopefully, in our 12th week of taking this on, hopefully our clear objective every day is to sin a little less today than we did yesterday. And then if we have a bad day, then to start over again and keep going at it. In that mortification needs to be a life work in us. That wanting to kill sin needs to be a driver in us every day moving forward. Not because we're shaming everybody that does anything wrong. It's not an outwardly thing. It's an inwardly thing where we're trying to take on the things that are making our life less than what it's capable of being when we're fully committed to following who Jesus is. I hope that helps.